Hello and welcome to a new episode of ZomCast, ZomCast 26. Today we will be talking about JSON, a very popular module in Python's standard library that handles data in the format of JSON. A lot of the data that is transferred over the internet is in the form of JSON. It has JSON format, so it's good to know how this module works as a Python developer. Actually, it's very easy, it's quite straightforward. If you have watched my previous episode, ZomCast 25, about Pickle, it had some methods in order to encode something, some object, into a binary format and then decode it with another method from the binary format to object format. You can use the same methods. Actually, it has the same interface, dump s and load s, in order to do encoding and decoding. It's very straightforward. So let's get to action and see how it works. First of all, I'm going to show you the Python website. Here we will start with the documentation and I will show you some of the examples that are available there. As you can see, here we have the import of the module first. Whenever you want to use a module, first you have to import it into your code. It has imported in this example the JSON module, and after that it says json.dump_s. What this does, this receives a Python data, and Python data could be any of the data types that you are dealing with normally in Python, like lists, for example, lists, dictionaries, and normal data, for example, strings. If you want to turn them into some JSON data and to JSON format, you easily pass that data structure, whether it's dictionary or list or simple string, to this function dump_s, and it returns the JSON output or the JSON equivalent of what you are looking for. All right. Now I'm going to continue with these examples, and the next one you can see that it's passing a string foo_bar, and it gives the JSON equivalent, the JSON output for foo_bar. The next one. These are all examples of encoding different data structures of Python into JSON format. And after that, we have the decoding one. Look, after that, we also have decoding. And in order to decode, you call the method load_s on this module. There's a function load_s, and it receives a JSON string, which can be any JSON string, and then it decodes it and gives you the the Python equivalent of it. Later, soon we will be working with this in action. Also, another interesting thing about JSON data is that you can print them with the print function. If you have a JSON output or some JSON data, whether it's just written by you or it is the output of calling json.dump_s, which receives a data structure and gives you JSON data, in that case the print function prints the JSON data in a pretty print way. We call this pretty print. When you output the JSON in a formatted way, in a nice way that is easy to read and traverse and understand, we call this pretty printing. All right. Now let's get to action and see how it works in code. I'm gonna open Visual Studio Code and I'm gonna create a new script. This new script, I'm gonna call it JSON exercise.py. First we import JSON, and after that I'm going to create a couple of different data structures in Python. I'm going to increase the size of the font here so that you see it better. And then first a list of names, for example, Jack, John, Matt. These are some names put into a list, and then I create a dictionary. I call it dictionary name Jack, age 26, and profession software developer. Here's the dictionary that we have, and then a simple string name John Doe. And then a very simple one, a very simple data structure, a variable in fact, age. I put it as 30, for example. We are going to convert all of these into JSON. So the way we do it is by calling json.dump_s. So I say print converting data structures to JSON. Note that I'm going to output them right after converting them to JSON. So I simply say print, and then this is a string names in order to output the names values, and then JSON output. For JSON output, I open curly braces, and inside it I call this one json.dump_s, and I pass in names. Again, this one print. I'm gonna separate this into two print statements to make it easier for you to understand. So I say names, for the dictionary, I'm writing this for the dictionary, and I write a dictionary. This will print the dictionary, and after that print JSON format. Dictionary is JSON format, and then json.dump_s. I pass in the dictionary, and for the string one for name, I say print JSON output for a JSON format of name is json.dump_s name. And for the final one, which is age, I say print JSON format of age. is json.dump is age. I'm a little bit doubtful about the last one to work, but we tested anyways. Let's run it. Okay, line 16. We have some problem in line 16. Okay, we cannot concatenate string and dictionary at the same print statement. So we are going to print this in another print statement, print dictionary, and the other one as well. I'm gonna finish this print statement and go to the next one, and I'll put this here, and again this will not work, so I have to move it to the next one, print like this, print JSON. Finish that. Okay, we cannot concatenate string with some other complex data types, and JSON format of age, I guess this one as well. Finish this, go to the next one, and there we go, run it. Still we have problem. 25 and 25 cannot concatenate str not int to str. Yeah, we cannot concatenate age, so I used just the name of the age, not the value of the age. Okay, let's run it. There we go. So all of them worked actually, as you can see, converting data structures to JSON. This is our raw data structure, a list of names, and then the JSON output is like that. It's pretty similar to what we had in the first place, but this is some standard JSON that you can pass into JavaScript or whatever. You can transfer it over the internet. And we have the dictionary that maps name to Jack, age to 26, profession to software developer. And we have the output of that. You can see that it's pretty similar actually, but it's standard JSON, and for strings, for one, you can see that double quotes are used to enclose strings instead of single quotes that are acceptable in Python. For JavaScript, for JSON, you must always use double quotes for strings, for specifying strings. And interestingly, you can see that that worked for name as well. For John Doe, we passed a piece of string to the function json.dump_is, and it returned just an enclosed, double quote enclosed string equivalent of that, which is standard JSON again. And JSON format for integer, we passed in an integer that returned that integer for us, that integer value. Now, what if we want to encode our JSON data? For example, we have some JSON format, we have a string, JSON string, and we want to decode it, Let's do that. Print decoding some JSON. And for that, I'm going to find some JSON data from the internet, and then I pass it to json.loads, which is the function that is used in Python's JSON module to decode JSON data into Python related and Python native data structures and data types. Let's do that. I knew of a website that had some free APIs, but I forgot that. I have forgotten that. I'm gonna find it. Free API, Rapid API, yeah. Rapid API is a good website that has a lot of free APIs. For example, APIs for weather and so on, for countries, getting data about different countries, about different cities, about weather, climate, and so on. So we are going to get some of its JSON data and then use it in our Python code. Actually, we are going to test how good JSON's decoding capabilities are. COVID-19 data, nice. Not nice, in fact. COVID-19 is not a nice thing. It was a pandemic that actually shook the world, you know. We are going to use some of its data, in fact. So as you can see, it has a section, get latest totals. We can call it, in fact, subscribe to test. Come on, we don't need to subscribe. We just want to get a free call. Get latest. Do I need to subscribe? As I remember, we could easily make call to them. Oh, it's not free. It's not very completely free. Or I have to log in. So, sorry, I'm gonna pause the video now, log into my account, and after that I can test. Sorry for the waiting. Actually, that website Rapid API didn't work because I had forgot my username and password and couldn't log in, so I chose to test some JSON data, get some JSON data from Firefox website, Mozilla Developer Network. You can find it on by searching MDN, and I found some small piece of JSON. Now I'm gonna copy it and transfer it to Visual Studio Code, and then we are gonna do our test over there. Let's copy it, Control C, and move to Visual Studio Code, and here I'm gonna put it inside, you know, some string. I say JSON data or JSON str. This is a JSON string. I create multi-line string using this, and then could we do it using single quotes? Yes, we have JSON str. Now we are going to convert it or decode it to this data structures, to Python data structures using json.dumps. Print. First of all, we print the normal data. JSON data, JSON string. Let's make it f string to easily use that string inside this string. JSON str, print f string again, decoded JSON, and this will be JSON dot loadis. Loadis is the function that decodes your JSON data into normal data. Let's pass it JSON str and run it. There we go. You can see that first we printed the normal string that we had, the initial normal string that was a JSON string, in fact, and after that we printed the decoded JSON. And the decoded JSON, in fact, is a dictionary. You can see that we have browsers. In front of browsers, we have Firefox, and then name. In fact, we have several embedded dictionaries inside one parent dictionary. Inside browsers, we have another dictionary, Firefox, and then it is mapped to another dictionary that has these members: name, pref URL, releases, and so on and so forth. So you see that it's pretty easy and pretty straightforward to work with JSON data. There are some specific things about them, of course, about working with JSON data. For example, if you want to do different things, do a little bit more custom things with JSON. For example, when printing them using the print function, or if you want to put the output of your input data structure into some other variable instead of returning it, you can also pass that variable as the second parameter of the JSON.dumpS function. In fact, let's do that. I'm gonna show it to you. Let's say we have a simple dictionary. I call it dict2, and here we have location USA, and for example we have company called Python, for example. And we are going to put the output of converting this to JSON into some other variable. So we have this. Let's write json.dumpS dict2. We know that this returns a JSON. We can put that value as the second parameter. Skip keys, sort keys, separators. These are some optional parameters that you can pass into this function to have more customized output. For example, by using separators or by using sort keys, you can sort the outputs. For example, here we have location and then company. If we use sort keys, this will change the output. Encoded, I call it encoded. And if I use sort keys, I set it as true, then print encoded, and it will print, let's make this if a string, encoded, this will sort the output after converting this data structure into JSON, and then it will display it to us. Let's run it. There we go. You can see that in the example in dict2 we have location first and then company, but since we used sort keys as true, it is the listing company first and then location, which shows the effect of using that sort keys parameter. Oh my god, I didn't show that to you. There we go. You can see that we had the dictionary and then we used sort keys as true, and the encoded value when printed had this sorting, company and location, but here is location and company. All right. There was also a subtle example that has been used in the documentation that showed you can get the output into another string, into another utility like string IO, which I'm gonna skip to save time, but you can check it out in the examples. On Firefox, you can see that there's an example here that does that. It is creating an IO variable from the string IO class, and then it is actually putting the output of converting its data structure to JSON into that variable, into IO, and then it is displaying its value. Alright, that's it for how basically you can work with JSON data. I hope you liked this video, but before I wrap up the video, please stay tuned. I'm gonna overview some of the news that we had over the last week. Back to our ZomCast 26 screen. Kubernetes podcast, new podcast is out. It is called Multi-Cluster Services with Jeremy Olmsted Thompson. Check it out on kubernetespodcast.com. And also Stack Overflow podcast, the new version is out. It came out 3 days ago, in fact. And it came out today. And it is called How Do Digital Nomads Pay Their Taxes? And last but not least, Red Hat Summit 2021 registration is now open, and it will be virtual. The first series of this summit will be virtual and free for all. So check it out on redhat.com, and you can register for the summit, for the virtual summit experience. So I hope that you liked this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also feel free to follow my channel on Telegram using the handle CodeZombie_official, _official, of course, and on Facebook as well, and on Twitter, CodeZombie_official. See you in the next episode.